Hello, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
It's our TOEIC unit for the month of September.
Opening a bank account. Finding the perfect bank account for you. Like many foreigners here in Taiwan, it depends on what company you work for. They will ask you to open up an account that they already use. So I currently have 3 bank accounts in Taiwan.
Having a bank account is useful if you want to have a place to keep your money instead of under your mattress because, of course, if a 小偷, if a burglar comes into your house
fire.
And they figure out where your money is, hey, you've lost all your money.
You are $1 people.
Yes, exactly. So the bank is a good place to keep it. But if you want to keep money in the bank, you need to open a bank account.
True.
And there are different kinds of bank accounts, as you know. For most of us, we start with a checking account or a savings account. And there's another kind of account we're going to talk about too. Is it
money market account?
Money market account.
Yeah.
That's something else you might consider.
Yep.
Although I think you probably might want to start with a checking account because if you're young, you're going to be wanting to access that money so that you can go out with friends. And
Actually, in Taiwan, they don't use checking accounts very often. So if you're in Taiwan, you guys are probably going to open savings accounts. That's what I have, actually. I don't have a checking account. I have a savings account. We're going to get started by reading through the conversation. We've got a couple of characters here, actually 3. So Allison, Becky, and Craig. Let's go. Hi, my colleague and I are both interested in opening bank accounts. Have you already decided what types of accounts you want to open? If not, I could recommend some of our services.
We're both amateurs when it comes to managing money.
Well, the most common account our institution offers is a checking account. These accounts are easy to access, so people typically use them to withdraw money for everyday purchases and paying bills. I believe that will suit my needs. I'm not sure about my colleague, though.
I already have a checking account. I'm more interested in an account that allows me to earn interest on the funds I've saved from my part-time job during summer vacation.
In that case, a savings account might be better for you. It offers higher interest rates than checking accounts do.
What are the drawbacks to savings accounts?
There is no issue in transferring funds into the account. However, you can only make minimal withdrawals each month. Do you offer any other kinds of accounts? We also offer money market accounts. These accounts combine the features of a checking and savings account.
That could be a good option as well. I think I'll consult my uncle for advice. He's a financial counselor, so he is quite knowledgeable about these matters.
No problem. Here's my business card and a flyer that lists the features of each account in an easy-to-understand format. Feel free to contact me if you have any further questions.
Okay, today we're going to talk about opening a bank account. And of course, if you want to open a bank account, you go to the bank and you talk to a clerk there, and they give you some advice to help you find the perfect bank account. And Allison begins the conversation. She says, "Hi, my colleague and I are both interested in opening bank accounts." So Allison and her colleague, her coworker, Craig, have gone to the bank and they're asking about opening bank accounts.
So, here's the clerk, Becky. She says if you already decided what types of accounts or what kinds of accounts you want to open. If not, I could recommend some of our services. If you're brand new, I remember the first time I opened an account at a bank, I was probably I think I was 14, and I went with my mom, and I had a paper route. I delivered papers at 4:30 in the morning with my brother, and I wanted to save my money so that I could buy a car when I had enough money when I was 16, because we could get our driver's license. And I didn't know anything about any of the counts, and I also asked for the clerk to explain or recommend some of the accounts they offered. So that's a good thing to do if you go to a bank.
Exactly. And I remember back in high school, maybe even earlier than that, I had my first account, and it was a checking account. And it's kind of unusual because I have not written a check in many, many years. And that's why it's called a checking account. If you want to pay something or pay for something, you could actually write a check. That is more common in the United States, or at least it was then. I don't know about now. The last couple of times I've been back to visit my family, I've always used my debit card to pay for things. I can't remember the last time I actually wrote a check.
Yeah, they're still using checks where I grew up. But when I moved to New York, and this was long ago, they'd already stopped using checks. They wouldn't accept them because they didn't trust people. They thought everyone was trying to rip them off. Anyway, we've got Craig here. He is friends with Allison. They're co-workers. He says we're both amateurs when it comes to managing money. If you're an amateur, it just means you're not good at this. You're not a professional. You probably don't know what you're doing. So they're beginners at this process. They don't really know how to manage their money. So this is something you don't have a lot of experience with. And so Becky, the clerk, she says the most common account our institution offers is a checking account. I'm going to assume these people are in the United States and not Taiwan, because they're the most common account here in Taiwan, of course, is the savings account, which is very convenient, I must say, in Taiwan. Your savings accounts are more flexible than ours are in America. So an institution could be some sort of company, could be a society, could be an organization. But when we talk about banks, we usually talk about institutions like a banking institution or a financial institution. You'll often see those words connected.
And don't confuse the word institution with the word institute, like MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. An institution is usually like a bank or something, or maybe it could be a mental institution. If you're having some psychological problems, you might get sent to a mental institution. But we're talking mostly about banks and other related businesses or institutions. And yes, indeed, Becky says the most common account our institution offers is a checking account. At least as Stephanie said, this could be in the States, whereas here in Taiwan, you guys like savings accounts more. And these accounts are easy to access, so people typically use them to withdraw money for everyday purchases and paying bills. And that does make sense. If you're going to be using a lot of money, you might want to have a checking account because, again, you're withdrawing money in order to go out with friends, to go grocery shopping, to go to a restaurant, to buy gasoline, etc., etc. Yeah, you're going to be buying things all the time. But if you want to save for a rainy day, then you might want a savings account.
That's right. So here Craig says, I already have a checking account. I'm more interested in an account that allows me to earn interest on the funds I've saved from my part-time job during summer vacation. Yeah, until recently, at least in the States, checking accounts didn't offer interest unless you had a lot of money in your account, a lot of money, like over 10,000 US dollars. And I know for a lot of kids just starting out, they don't have that much to deposit right away. I didn't. If you earn interest, you guys know what that is. You put money into the bank, and then if you keep it in there, the bank pays you a little percentage of that amount every month. they're kind of thanking you for putting your money in their account. They use that money then to loan out to customers who want loans, business loans, or mortgages, loans on buying a new apartment or a house. So he's looking for a savings account. And Becky then says, in this case, a savings account might be better for you. It offers higher interest rates than checking accounts do, although it seems like all the interest rates are pretty low right now.
Yeah, it seems like it's kind of silly to actually open savings accounts or checking accounts based on the interest. If you want to earn some interest, you might want to consider some other kinds of investment plans.
Yes.
Like mutual funds or something like that, or even stocks or precious metals or whatever, or even, I think, electronic currency is attracting a lot of investment these days.
Cryptocurrency.
Yeah. Exactly. So, yes, things have sort of changed in the last several years.
Yeah.
But again, Craig says he already has a checking account and he'd like to earn more interest, so he's considering a savings account because, he's got a part-time job. He has it during, or at least he did have it during summer vacation. We're all back to school now. And Becky says, well, in that case, if that is the case, a savings account might be better for you. It offers higher interest rates than checking accounts do. And Craig has another question. What are the drawbacks to savings accounts? So drawbacks here are just disadvantages, okay? If I have a savings account, that's great. It's got good interest, but there must be something bad about it. What's the disadvantage versus a checking account?
Yeah, you could also say, what are the cons? Sometimes we'll talk about the pros and cons of something. Drawbacks is the opposite of advantages or benefits of something. So what's the downside to having a savings account? You could say that too. There is no issue in transferring funds into the account, says Becky. So that's the good news, but you can only make minimal withdrawals each month. That's true in the United States, although they just changed the law, Tom, just a couple of months ago. You used to only be able to withdraw from your savings account 6 times in a year. I think it was really low.
Really?
So when you talk about minimal, it just means that's the lowest amount. So you can only make minimal, a very low amount of withdrawals each month. Maximum or maximal, we don't really use maximal though. The maximum withdrawals out of a savings account would be 6 withdrawals in a year in the United States, although they changed that because of COVID. No one has any money, so they're helping people. So the minimal amount, the minimal level of English in order to understand, say, English Digest would be the Zhonggao level, so you would be intermediate, and moving into the advanced level, that's the minimal you need to know.
Right. When I first traveled to Mexico, I had a minimal amount of Spanish, so I wasn't really able to communicate very well. I had a basic level or a minimal level of Spanish. Hopefully, my Spanish has improved since then. But here, of course, Becky says one of the drawbacks or one of the disadvantages or one of the cons is that you can only make minimal withdrawals each month. So if you need money, you can't really get it that often. And Allison has a question. Do you offer any other kinds of accounts? So far they've discussed checking accounts and savings accounts. What other kinds of accounts are there?
Oh, so then Becky says we also offer money market accounts. These accounts combine the features of checking and savings accounts. So they're combining the best of both, I think, here with the money market account. Craig says that could be a good option or choice as well. I think I'll consult my uncle for advice. Why would he talk to his uncle? Well, his uncle is a financial counselor, or you might hear more often them referred to as financial advisors. A financial counselor or advisor has a background in this. They probably went to school and studied finances, and they have some good advice for you. They can look at how much you make and then help you decide how much you can invest each month and some of the investments that would be best for your level of investment. When you first start out, you don't have much money, and then it changes as you get older and you build up resources over time. So counselor gives you some good advice. Also, advisor can be used here. And if you're knowledgeable, you have a lot of knowledge about something. Typically, someone who is knowledgeable is someone who has studied it, perhaps in school, or they might have a great interest in it, and if they've read about it themselves and they've taught themselves a lot about a particular field. You don't have to be a college graduate to be knowledgeable about something. That's not true. You can teach yourself or find someone who can teach you.Yeah,
I'm considering buying a big motorcycle myself, but I don't really know much about them. So I'm going to talk to my friend Mr. Zhang because he's quite knowledgeable on large motorcycles because he tested for the license and he bought one. So I think I'd rather talk to him first before I go purchase such a machine. He's very knowledgeable about motorcycles. And Becky says, well, no problem. You can go ahead and talk to your uncle for advice. And here's my business card and a flyer that lists the features of each account in an easy-to-understand format. So, of course, if you're working in a bank, you have a business card or a name card. Sometimes they're referred to name cards, but in the U.S. and Western countries, we refer to them as business cards. And a flyer, of course, is just a little sheet, maybe a couple pages that you can sort of open up, and it gives you some basic information about something. You might see flyers on the street from somebody who's opening a new restaurant or something like that.Yeah,
you really might. So here are some ideas for you. What we're going to do is we're going to listen to our very knowledgeable Chinese teacher, and then we'll be back to talk about some of the useful expressions and the discussion questions. Stay tuned.
听众朋友大家好，我是安娜，又到了我们多益单元咯。其实多益单元都还蛮生活化的，比如说像今天呢，我们就要来介绍一下各种银行的账户。那开户到底要开什么户呢？其实有各种不同的户头诶，比如说今天 Allison 跟 Craig 他们就一起到银行准备要进行开户。那么这个行员呢叫做 Becky， 当然他会先做一些 recommendation， 做一些推荐。好，推荐哪一些不同的账户呢？第一种就是所谓的 checking account， 所谓的支票存款账户，它出现在第二个 Becky 这个地方。支票存款账户是什么东西呢？基本上这个账户就是比较适合经常要用来领钱的这样子的一个使用者，它会比较适合。那么这个账户呢，基本上是比较容易来使用啦。我们来看一下第二个 Becky 第二句的地方 These accounts are easy to access， 使用上存取上比较方便。存取什么呢？基本上你开户之后，你就可以一直拿来领钱、买东西啦，或付账单啦。好，那么在今明2天的多益单元当中，其实你可以准备另外一个小的 memo 纸，或在我们杂志上空白的地方，可以把一些专业词做一些笔记哦。比如说我们刚刚说第二个 Becky 的第二句，领钱这个动作 withdraw money。那么后面呢，到底领钱用来干嘛呢？每天的购买啦，或者是支付账单啦。好，那么 Allison 也不太确定这样子的一个 checking account 是不是 suit her needs， 能够符合她的需求。不过 Craig 他因为已经有了支票存款账户，他现在是希望呢能够有一个账户，让他从打工存钱、暑假打工啊存到的钱里面赚一些利息。他觉得是不是有这样的一个账户呢？所以在第二个 Craig， 我们看一下第二句的地方哦，这里有一个关系子句，而且稍微复杂一点，其实有2个。先行词是 an account， 一种账户。限定用法的关系子句，从后面 that 一直到句尾的地方，我们可以先走个括号。那么在括号当中，又有另外一个关系子句，先行词则是中间的 the funds， 那些钱，后面 I've 到最后面的 vacation 也左右括号，所以它是大包小的关系子句。不过在这里有一些专用词汇咯，比如说要有利息，利息这个字叫做 interest 就是我们本来记那个兴趣的意思。那么还有 fund F-U-N-D 就所谓的一笔钱啦，钱。 好，那当然 Becky 这个时候就推荐另外一种所谓的储蓄账户。我们来看一下第三个 Becky， 这地方出现了 savings account。注意 savings account 有加 s savings。如果你特别提 saving， 那指的是存钱这件事情，而 savings 则指的是你的存款，所以储蓄账户特别会用 savings account。为什么呢？存款账户顾名思义嘛，你那个账户就是要来储蓄，要来生利息的，所以其实利率是比较高。同样在第三个 Becky 的第二句的地方，我们把一个专有词抓出来，利率，利息的率，那个率呢用的是 rate， 所以利率叫做 interest rate。好，那当然有优点就会有缺点啦，所以这个时候 Craig 就比较好奇的是，这种储蓄账户它有什么 Drawbacks 吗？那当然储蓄账户如果你要把钱存进去没什么问题，不过如果你要提款的话呢，次数就会有限制哦。在第四个 Becky 的地方，我们特别注意几个单字。第一个，前面 issue 这个字， issue 我们通常都会记是议题，很重要的议题，比如说到底要打哪一种疫苗比较好啦，或者是说核能发电厂要不要继续建啦，是不是要停止核能能源呐？这种大家都有正面跟反面很多的，这就是议题呢，就叫做 issue。可其实在生活当中还蛮常把 issue 当成 difficulty， 就是困难的意思。好，所以如果你要转钱转进来，转 transfer， 如果你要转进来没有问题，可是如果你要提钱，我们刚刚说提钱叫做 withdraw money， 那是动词，对不对？现在看到第四个 Becky 比较后面的地方出现名词，把 withdraw 后面加 al 就变成名词，可是要搭配动词 make a withdrawal 去提个款。make withdrawals 可以用复数，但是呢，每个月它的提款次数是有限制的哦。So you can only make minimal withdrawals each month。每个月就只能提少少的钱。好，那么还有没有其他的呢？还有第三种出现在第五个 Becky， 他提到的是货币市场账户 （Money Market Accounts）。那它呢就有这个支票存款账户跟储蓄账户不同的 features 结合起来。不过当然了，大家要开什么样的户头是需要特别再好好的思考一下。所以在第六个最后一个 Becky 的地方，他有特别提到有留了名片 business cards， 还有一个传单。在第六个 Becky 第二句，传单叫做 flyer，a flyer 后面带了一个限定用法的关系子句，从 that 一直到句尾地方，这边可以左右挂号起来。所以 Allison 跟 Craig 现在对三个账户稍微有个概念咯。不过明天我们的多益单元还会再针对三个账户做不同的比较。以上是我们今天的内容，我是安娜，明天见。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay, everybody, let's continue our lesson, and we're going to talk about some useful expressions, and we've got a discussion question that will come up in just a bit. But, you know, of course, Allison and Craig have gone to the bank to talk to Becky, and she's giving them some advice on things. So if you want someone to tell you something, you might want to look for some information, and then when you are asked for that information, you need to give explanations. There are various ways to do that.
There sure are. Now, let's look at this first one, guys. What I mean is that my rent will be a little late this month because I just lost my job. You might use this if you state this and the person goes, "What? What are you talking about? What do you mean?" What I mean is, and the second time you explain something, you'll often use this phrase. Well, what I mean is, what I meant to say is, Yeah, so sometimes when you first start out with explaining something, you're not quite as clear as you think you are. And so this gives you a way to say what you said, but in a clearer way, a better way, a way that someone will understand better. What I mean is...
Right, maybe your landlord or landlady doesn't quite understand when you first say that you're going to miss the rent payment or something, or it's going to be a little late. So that person may say, well, what do you mean? What are you trying to say? This is how you answer. Well, what I mean is that my rent will be a little late this month. Don't say my meaning is. That's from Chinese, I think. 我的意思是说.
Yeah, that's Chinglish.
Yeah, that's a direct translation. This is how we'd normally say this. Well, what I mean is that my rent will be a little late because I just got fired. I just lost my job. Okay, now, the next one here goes like this. It says, I always lock my doors. The reason for this is that there have been many robberies in this area. I think most people always lock their doors, but I suppose if you live down in Taidong or in Nantou or something, everybody trusts each other, so maybe you don't lock your doors when you go out. But in some situations, you might decide not to lock your doors. I remember in my hometown, we didn't really lock our doors when we left the house because... You know, that stuff just didn't happen in a small town. So in this particular case, the person says they always lock their doors. Well, why do you do that? Well, the reason for this is, the reason I do this is that there have been many robberies in this area. So yeah, I don't want a thief or a burglar coming into my house and stealing things.
That's a good reason to lock your doors. Yeah, the reason for this is a way to, again, explain something a little more clearly. So here's number 3. Well, the thing is, it's a small party. So we can only invite a few people. Maybe you're talking to a friend and they say, hey, I heard you're having a party. Why didn't you invite me? And you know that their feelings are probably hurt. Well, this is a way to explain to them why. Well, the thing is, and we use this a lot, probably not older generation, the older generation of people, but definitely younger people. Well, the thing is... you know, the space is so small, I could only invite a few people. So that one you're going to hear a lot. Now, moving on to the discussion question, Tom will ask you, what types of bank accounts do you have, and which one do you use most often?
I believe I have nothing but savings accounts here in good old Taiwan, but I also have some money market accounts, I believe, in the US, and I also have some CDs, which are certificates of deposit, even though the interest is abysmally low. How about you?
Yeah, very low. In Taiwan, I have 3 savings accounts. Although 2 of them, I have credit cards attached to them. So that's very convenient when I go to America. I can use my money in my savings account. But the stores don't know it's a savings account. They think it's just a regular checking account because I have a credit card. Ooh. Anyway, yeah, it's kind of convenient. Talk about these yourselves, guys. We're going to leave you with some more listening comprehension questions. Chat with your friends. Try to use some of these vocabulary words and get really proficient. That's all the time we have, Tom. We got to sign off. For English Digest, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Tom. Goodbye.
Bye.